Bears, blog, boys, you know it all, computer, analytic, geeky nerds. Michael Schneider, Tom Cavanaugh, the Bear, blog, boys, know-it-alls, doing some podcast somewhere. Nobody wants to hear you. Geeks, you pencil-pushing, skinny jean-wearing geeks, you.
Coming to you live from our mom's basement, this is the Bears Blog Boys podcast. I'm your co-host, Tom Cavanaugh, here with my good buddy and other co-host, Michael Snyder. Snyder, it was a pretty down – the vibes were pretty down on the last podcast that we did. It's been 3 days since the Bears lost, or I guess 2 full days since the Bears lost. I'm recharged, man. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to put that game behind us, and we are on to Detroit. I mean, there are a couple things I want to talk about after going over the all-22s, but all in all, I'm trying to leave those vibes for Monday, and I'm focused on the Bears versus the Lions this Sunday.
I'm right there with you, Tom. Again, a lot of encouraging things that we've seen from the Bears, a lot of stuff they're going to leave at that game. Tom, Lions are a huge matchup, and it is basically Ben Johnson going against his former team. So maybe we have a leg up there, Tom. I'm really fired up for the matchup. It's another NFC North bloodbath. This division is a gauntlet, and here, you're in a big opportunity, to where now you can be 500 across the division.
Yeah, and I mean, Center. I think it also goes for the Lions too. Both of these teams need a huge bounce back. This is of the division. Obviously, the Vikings and Packers were the teams that came out with W's. But just in terms of how they looked offensively, I would say both of these teams are in desperate need of a bounce back game. And then obviously, like you said, all the layers you just added with Ben Johnson coming back from Detroit, these two teams knowing each other very well. So I don't want to talk about the Bears-Vikings game anymore. I don't want to talk about it in depth. We did that kind of on Tuesday, but I did get a chance to watch the all-22s, and when you just go back and watch the offense, I think that there were good things, there were bad things. I think really what it comes down to for Caleb is we talked about the accuracy, but I don't want to sell myself as this QB guru, because I'm not. I am not a QB coach. I've never played the position at any point. But when you go back and watch the QB school and he talks about mechanics and their dropbacks, something I've noticed with Caleb that I'm sure he's noticed as well, JT O'Sullivan has noticed, is when he gets to the top of his drop, he just, on some of those missed throws, just wastes so many steps, which is weird because, again, these were not concerns of his coming out of college. So again, maybe is this just in a new offense? He's trying to learn a lot of different things. He's learning different drops. Again, it's all supposed to come together in a simultaneous motion, in synchrony. So maybe that's it. But I think some of the stuff that why he's missing these throws is he's rushing his process. So hopefully, as the season goes on, he becomes more comfortable in this offense. That stuff will kind of even itself out, because the accuracy is concerning, but at least I think there are reasons why the inaccuracy is happening.
Yeah, and I think, Tom, I don't know, I think some tweets, he's not really stepping into it. I think I heard Ben Johnson speak into it, his foot isn't being pointed in. He's kind of just sitting back and letting his talented arm just kind of rip it in there, but then you're losing kind of some of those fundamentals. And I think you see some disconnect there as well. So I think that kind of has a play into it. And that's the thing, Tom. Again, he is incredible at extending plays, creating opportunities there. But at the same time, he gets a little bit of happy feet on, and he kind of when he sees the pocket kind of collapsing a little bit, I kind of just want to see him stand in there, go through his reads, and then fire it into those tight windows. You don't need to be so conservative, right? He has that rocket of an arm where he could fit the ball into those tight windows, and I think he's just a little bit scared of kind of testing that out, right? I appreciate that he's not putting the balls in harm's way, right? He's not throwing interceptions, but you kind of want some balance to that, to where you want to see him rip it in there and taking some chances.
100% Snyder. And, Brian Flores' defense is very tricky. While they weren't sending these weird pressures, they were disguising a ton on the back end. You could definitely tell he was holding on to the ball for an extra second. That's to come with the territory. There are going to be plays like that. Brian Flores is really good at what he does. And that's what I'm really looking forward to in this game. The Lions defense, basically since Aaron Glenn got there, since Dan Campbell got there, which was with Aaron Glenn as the defensive coordinator. And now that it's being taken over by Kelvin Joseph, I believe, is their defensive coordinator. Since it's been taken over, they've been pretty – I won't say that they haven't disguised stuff, but they're pretty who they are. They pretty much stick to who they are is what I mean. That it's not as exotic as a Brian Flores' defense. And that's kind of what I'm looking forward in this matchup. I think the Bears will have a much better idea of what they're getting defensively. They are a cover 1 and cover 3 team. They are a middle of the field closed team. And I'm hoping with some easier defensive looks, some more being able to anticipate some of the more easier defensive looks, that Caleb will feel more confident in what he's seeing. Ben Johnson will feel more confident in the plays that he's calling for this thing to really get on track. But I will say, with all the man coverage that the Lions like to run, they ran the most cover 1 this week of any team in the NFL. That's where the accuracy is really going to have to come, because it's going to be tighter coverage, right? So that's where Caleb is really going to have to lock in this week and improve on, because while I think Brian Flores' defense is tougher overall, throwing into windows and zone, I think, gives you a lot more margin for error when your accuracy is a little bit spotty. Whereas man coverage, I think the coverage is going to be a lot tighter, and you're going to really have to be on your P's and Q's when it comes to putting the ball where you want it.
Most definitely, Tom. But when you mentioned man coverage, I mean, you have a really good man beater in Roma Dunze. You got to get that timing down with him, right? You got to hit him in stride. That's where he excels. Even DJ Moore, him and Rome are so good at the point of the catch point, just to, and they come down strong with the ball. Just give them the opportunity, right? Don't sail it over their heads. It's I want to see more 50-50 ball shots with the both of them.
Most definitely, Snyder. I think Roma Dunze is the guy I'm watching out for in this game, because I do think that you put it perfectly. He's probably their best man beater, and they're going to see a lot of man coverage. Now, will the Lions come out and run 40% of their snaps in cover 1? Maybe not. Maybe that was a Packers game-centric plan, because I think the Packers receivers are not. That's maybe not their strength. And again, they know the kind of offensive coordinator they're getting in LaFleur. Maybe they try to trick Caleb a little bit more, kind of like what Flores was doing. That's very much in the realm of possibilities. But I do think at their core, that's who they want to be. That's who the Lions have always wanted to be under Dan Campbell. They want to get up and press you at the line of scrimmage. So again, Roma Dunze, I think, is going to be a huge player for the Bears in this matchup. And also, Snyder, I will say that I think that this will play more into what Ben Johnson wants to do anyway. The Packers did a great job of kind of doing a lot to mess with the Lions' man coverage rules, a lot of switch releases, a lot of condensed formations. That's what we know. That's what we know Ben Johnson, who he wants to be, right? I think even on the preseason game against the Bills, that switch release really messed with their man coverage. I think we're going to see a lot of that on the Bears end. It's just going to be whether or not Caleb can kind of find those matchups and exploit them. And obviously the Bears receivers, can they win against a pretty decent coverage unit of the Lions? I don't know if Terrion Arnold is going to play in this one. He went out with the Packers in the Packers game. I think that'll be a big, crucial matchup, because if he's not playing, then you got to find the guy that is filling in for him and attack him over and over again. So, Snyder, I think that Roma Dunze will be big in this one. I think Colston Loveland, even though he didn't play all the snaps, is also, has some potential to be a crucial guy to move the chains for the Bears. And, hopefully DJ Moore I know he practiced fully. You can get him on some explosive plays too. So, again, this is a matchup I'm really looking for the Bears to kind of take advantage of what the Lions like to do. And they won't be tasked with kind of figuring out and solving as much defensive looks as they were against the Vikings.
Yeah. Well said, Tom. You can't overstate it. It really looked exotic. Brian Flores is definitely just a nutcase over there. It definitely made it a lot more difficult. You bring up some great points. I think that the Bears are going to have a plan, and I think it's going to be known, right? To where against the Vikings and Brian Flores, like we didn't expect to see a lot of that, Tom. So hopefully that can help out. And again, you just even with that though, Tom, like we still got to see Caleb, play a little bit more on time. I think he was, I don't know, one of the worst with the time to throw, Tom, last year or not last year, last week, maybe the second highest time to throw across the board. Like you can't do that, right? So hopefully, with a little bit more of a condensed defense, one that you know what you're going against to, he can clean up in those areas. That's the growth that you need to see.
Most definitely. I think we needed to see more anticipation. Like, I think that's just overall like anticipating the defense or anticipating where you need to go based on what the defense is in. I definitely think we didn't see a whole lot of that against the Vikings. I do think that I really was encouraged about his ability to sense pressure in some ways. I think sometimes he was a little bit too quick to bail out on a play, but overall, I think he did a good job of keeping himself out of harm's way in terms of avoiding sacks, which is a positive. The Lions have Aiden Hutchinson back, and that's going to be something the Bears are going to have to game plan for, right? They're going to have a plan for him, not allow him to wreck this game. I'm sure Ben Johnson will have a plan for them. I think they did a pretty good job overall of, keeping Jonathan Grenard at bay. Their interior guys definitely struggled. Jonah Jackson had a horrible game, and that could definitely be a problem in this one too. The Lions have pretty decent interior players. Obviously, Ali McNeil is the guy you got to watch out for. So they definitely need to get things fixed in the interior. I think that was still an issue against the Vikings. But really what this is going to come down to is what kind of plan are we going to see for Aiden Hutchinson, because that's the guy that can wreck this game. And I'm sure he'll see a bunch of Braxton Jones in this one, Snyder.
Tom, Aiden Hutchinson last year was on the pace to put up one of the best seasons I would have ever seen, especially from an advanced metric in terms of the pressures. Before he got hurt, Tom, he was just pacing unreal numbers. He would have easily been the defensive player of the year. Him, Aiden Hutchinson, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons are just absolute game wreckers. Ones that could take over games, ones that you really don't want to leave on an island. So you have to get really creative to scheme around him, Tom. I think he just has that ability to really just disrupt everything that they do on offense. So that's going to be a crucial matchup, Tom. Especially, I like what I think from Darnell Wright, but it's an absolute challenge for Braxton Jones if he's going to be covering him a lot. So that one definitely scares me, Tom. But you're going to have to find really creative ways to kind of dance around that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I really like what the Packers did. I mean, again, they were very condensed. They always had guys chipping, helping out. They're trying to squeeze Aiden Hutchinson in. I think we'll see a very similar game plan from Ben Johnson. And yeah, Snyder, you cannot allow him to wreck this game. Like you said, we saw it last year. That was like the best stretch of football Aiden Hutchinson ever played. And it could be a scary proposition if you do leave him unattended. And I'm sure Ben Johnson won't do that. Center, are you worried at all that like this Lions team is going to have the answers to like what Ben Johnson wants to do? Like, who do you think has the advantage? Because you can kind of make an argument both sides. Okay, yeah, the Lions know Ben Johnson. They're going to have a lot of wrinkles for him because they are going to know what he wants to do. But you can also say, hey, Ben Johnson knows the Lions very, very well, and he's going to have a better game plan to take advantage of what they want to do. Who do you think is going to have the edge in this one?
Yeah, it sounds biased for me, obviously being the Bears fan, but I think the advantage lies into he knows the player's weaknesses, right?
Yes.
I think Ben Johnson, I know they might know his style of offense and what he wants to run, but I don't look at Ben Johnson just having his one system, right? I think he's going to be creative. I think he's going to scheme up things. I think he's going to attack certain weaknesses. And he just knows the players individually within the defense. So I think that it will always be the advantage, and that's all across the board, right? So, yeah, I don't think that Ben Johnson is like a stale offensive play caller to where anything he does is going to be predictable. I think he's going to be super creative. I think he's going to attack you in ways that you don't expect it. So, I would say Bears would have the advantage when you look at it that way.
Yeah, I also kind of agree with you, Snyder. I think Ben Johnson, I don't know. I just think everything he embodies in terms of like game planning and stuff like that, we know he's like a freak, right? And he'll have, I think, the better game plan in terms of taking advantage of what he'll anticipate the Lions doing. The Lions very well could have a very good game plan as well, but again, these are two new coordinators. I'm not 100% sold that they'll be able to anticipate or have tricks up their sleeve for what Ben Johnson wants to do. So I also give Ben Johnson the edge there. Steiner, in terms that obviously, Caleb figuring it out and getting better is a concern or what I'm looking to see in this game. But I think the Bears are going to be at the biggest disadvantage is the Lions did not play well last week, but I think it's pretty fair to say they have a very good run defense, and the Bears could not run the ball last week. A rushing success rate of 17.6%. That is pitiful. That was the second worst in the NFL. I don't feel any better about them going up against a tougher Lions run defense, in my opinion, where they have a bunch of linebackers and defensive tackles who are really good at stopping the run. And again, I think it's so important that you're able to threaten a decent run game for the style of offense that Ben Johnson wants to be. And if they can't do that in this game, then I do have concerns because then you are putting a lot on Caleb's plate. Then you do have to change how you want to play offensively. And I want to be optimistic. I want to think that it can turn around. It can be better, but I don't know what reason I have to believe that it will be better against probably a tougher run defense that they'll be going up against the Lions in this one.
Yeah, it's concerning, Tom. I mean, our running backs are who they are, right? It was the same story last year. DeAndre Swift will give you some cool plays, right? You'll see the explosiveness, you'll see the athleticism, you'll see the pass catching ability. But man, when he runs in between the tackles, Tom, and any ounce of contact touches him, he just gets absorbed and he goes to the ground quick, right? He is not pushing the pile often. He is not exploding through. There's just like no natural feel for him inside. Another thing is, you want to see Monangai in there. Maybe Roshan is healthy, and they're probably better in between the tackles. But what you lose there is explosiveness, right? It's like the Najee Harris, A.J. Dillon, Javonte Williams. That's how I feel with Roshan Johnson or Kyle Monangai, right? Like, yes, they might be a little bit better, but then you lose the juice. With Kyle Monangai, he was so bad in pass protection last week. I think PFL graded him with a 1.8. Not saying DeAndre Swift is good there, but, PFF rated him with like an 85, right? So if you take Swift off the field, I think, it'll be maybe you see a little bit more Roshan in terms of pass protection there. But again, Tom, like I just hate that there's not really an answer to fix the running back room. Like someone, okay, give this guy a try. Like I just don't see it, Tom. I just think that they have to probably do more of a combo, and to see who could strike some fire and get some momentum rolling. But yeah, it's just not looking good, man.
Yeah, and I definitely agree, Snyder. That maybe a combo would help. I'm not too optimistic that like it would really make a difference. Like
Right.
I don't think the offensive line even played all that well in terms of run blocking. I think really like, and I don't know if this is going to happen in week 2, but we knew Ben Johnson wanted to come in and be his own rushing team. I think like they're just going to have to be kind of like what the Vikings defense is and just like very exotic and catch teams off guard. Like that eventually is like they want to make this offensive line paired with this running back group work as a run blocking unit or as a running unit. I think they're going to have to kind of channel their 2022 Lions and be like a very exotic run game that just throws a bunch of different stuff at defenses, and they're hard to figure out because I just think when they line up against a team like the Lions, like who is like clearly like just more talented in that regard, they don't have the running back talent, and I don't know if they have the offensive line talent to be like a totally dominant run block. I think their offensive line is probably going to be a better pass protecting unit than just to be like a team that you're just going to run zone at and be better. I don't know if that's ever going to be the case because Dahlman's obviously I think a strong run blocker. Tooney, that was never really his game, and we know Jonah Jackson kind of has his warts as a player. So I mean, I wish I was more optimistic, but I just like don't have enough evidence or reasons to believe that this is going to drastically turn itself around. I think this is going to be a problem that's nagging at the Bears for the remainder of the season unless something drastically changes and, Kyle Monunga hits the ground running or they bring someone in. Because, I do think Swift kind of leaves yards on the field, but I think the problems might go beyond Swift as well. So that's what I'm most worried about in this game, Snyder. I don't think they're going to be able to get a good ground game going unless Ben Johnson is like really, really deep in his bag and is like channeling different stuff to kind of trick the defense.
Yeah, I want to see more of like the creative shit. I said it on the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was like a goal line play where you had like Luther Burden in the backfield, and then you kind of did like a fake, I don't know, like a fake option or pitch to him, whatever, and then you had Rome in the middle of the field, wide open, right? I know you got to get a ground attack to kind of get that going, but I like that they put Burden back there to do that, right? Or I just want to see like just creative shit like that, right? To kind of maybe feed off some play action, or I don't know, do some more 12 personnel. And I don't know, Tom. I think you just gotta find something to get a spark there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I should have had this pulled up. I'm curious to see the splits of how many zone runs they had versus how many gap runs, but it seemed like primarily they were running a lot of zone stuff, which is kind of on par for the Ben Johnson and who he wants to be based on what we've seen the last 2 years. I'm looking at DeAndre Swift right here. They don't have the run type. Oh yeah, they do. So they had 15 zone runs to only 2 gap runs. So again, like I think that needs to change because that 2 signer, we know DeAndre Swift is not a good zone runner, like at all. He's never been at any point of his career. So if you want to specifically make him work, I think not only would the gap stuff help your offensive line and maybe give defenses more to worry about, like if they just know you're going to be an exclusively zone team, I think that's a lot harder to kind of trick them and keep them on their toes. But not only that, I think it'll also help Swift if you kind of give him some direction. Like, okay, these are our gap plays. Here's where you're running, right? You're not tasking him with reading things out because I didn't even know that before we started here, that he had 15 zone runs to only 2 gap runs. That makes a lot of sense why this whole unit struggled because I know, Senator, we talked about this ad nauseum, I feel like, before the season started.
Yeah.
This is a zone blocking offensive line unit. This is not a zone blocking running back room. I think that they're going to have to find more of a balance there to really aid these backs out. Even Monunga, I think, is the same way. To find some type of balance to make this thing work, because I think this has been something that's been swept under the rug, that like we've focused on Caleb and his development. But again, in order for Ben Johnson, I think his offense to be at its peak, it's to have a run game that is threatening and then balance the play action pass off of that. And right now, one of those elements is missing.
Yeah, and it's hurting, Tom. I mean, you've seen it. We weren't efficient there. It's like the same story as last year, right? If you put your quarterback in a lot of second and longs and a lot of third and longs, especially, at a unit that has a really good defensive line that can generate pass rush pressure, it's going to make the job harder, man. Again, I think I say this a lot, sound a little bit old school, that if you could, get into a lot of second and short situations with your run game, it makes that second and short play so unpredictable for a defense. It's the best spot you could be in, right? Then you're opening up play action. The defense is just on, their heels, not really knowing what to do. And, when you're ending up in so many second and third long situations, it's really hard to build momentum, Tom, to keep those chains moving. The whole operation just gets harder to move forward. So, it really starts with that run game on those early downs, not getting swallowed up on, 2nd and 8, and then you have a completion now, it's 3rd and 8, and it's just like it's not a smooth operation like that, Tom.
It's not, and especially at Snyder, I think you could take that like to a next degree with this offense specifically. Like that, we know that's who they want to be at their core. Like Ben Johnson said, he needed to call more runs, which maybe it may have been true. Like maybe like towards the end of the game when I think the Bears were taking some negative plays in the passing game, or they were having penalties, or whatever the case may be. Maybe it would have been better to call more runs, but the more runs won't do anything if you're not running the ball effectively. And yeah, like I'm not looking for them to be like a positively EPA team per carry. I don't think that's in the realm of possibilities for this Bears team specifically, but success rate is really what I'm looking at. If you can get that closer to like in the 40%, like that's where I think that it'll be okay to get you through the season. I don't know what the Lions were at their peak, but to have a 17.6% rate, like you're losing plays running the ball. Like that's what it comes down to. Like that's what that stat is saying. Like you're taking negative plays and wasting drives when you choose to run the ball. And that is like an unacceptable level for who this offense wants to be, because again, it's a balanced attack that threatens you in both ways. And if you're missing that one component, I think it kind of ruins the whole entire offense.
It does. I mean, that's definitely a big part of why we struggle, Tom. Like you said, that's what Ben Johnson needs. He needs that oil in the engine to keep it going, right? And we don't have it there, Tom. I am worried that we might not have an answer there. You're basically asking Swift to be better at something that he's never been good at in his entire career. So yeah, I think maybe you want to, just put some different bodies back there, Tom. I'm talking about even elevate some guys from the practice squad, just to get a different look, different feel. It won't hurt. I mean, use Swift for that explosive role. Call some more screens, get him on the check down. I think he could kind of thrive there. But it's just that early down in between the tackles, Tom. It's just anchoring us down as the offense.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Senator, just for reference, the Lions in 2024 had a 44.9% success rate on rushing plays last year. And for reference, the Bears were at 17.6%. So again, I'm not trying to be over dramatic, but that is like, you can't function that way. Like you just straight up can't. And I know like the passing offense is definitely needs to improve. And Snyder, I think I can transition here, and why I'm a little bit more encouraged about the play calling we talked about. We didn't really see the creativity that maybe we wanted to from the passing game, but at least in this going up against this defense, if we're expecting a lot of the middle field close coverages, so a lot of cover one man, a lot of cover three, I think you will have your opportunities where guys are running, where receivers are running away routes, right? Where there's yak opportunities and chunk play opportunities horizontally across the field. Like that's how you beat man coverage and cover three crossers, different variations of digs and just getting those guys on the moves to where they're running away from coverage. Where against the Vikings and Brian Flores, it's a lot of stop routes, kind of finding the holes in the zone. It's where I think that this entire offense struggled beyond Caleb as well. I think just like overall, they weren't really finding those chunk plays because of that style of defense. And that's kind of what Flores wants you to do anyway. And I think that they'll have more opportunities in that. So, but at the same time, like to get those big play action chunks, those big play action crossers, those linebackers need to come up, right? And if they're not threatened by the run game, then they're going to crowd the middle of the field, and it's going to be middle of the field close, right? And you're not going to get those looks that you want. So again, yeah, they really balance each other. But if the Bears were to find more creativity and I guess better plays to get the yards after the catch that we know this Ben Johnson offense would like to do, this is kind of a defense that would leave itself susceptible in those ways.
Yeah. We need to get better, right? I think you missed DJ Moore on some slants. I think you missed Dunze on some screens, right? Like stuff like that where, if you hit them there, good things to happen about it. And we didn't see that, Tom. And that's the one thing where absolutely Caleb needs to be better. He needs to hit those guys on time. He just needs to give them the opportunity. Even Zacchaeus is good after the catch, right? So I just think you got to hit those guys, Tom. You got to go through your reads. You got to do it quickly. And you just got to rip it out of there, man, and give these guys opportunities. And just stay in the pocket, right? You don't have to have the happy feet, bail out. Just kind of stay in there. Stay strong, and just kind of just rip it out, man.
Yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to. Just trust the system, trust the plays, stay in that pocket, hit the back foot of your drop and get that ball out. Like that's what it's going to come down to. And then obviously throw the ball accurately. The offensive line pass protection wise was not great. The tackles I thought played pretty well against the Vikings, but the interior I think just really struggled to kind of sort stuff out. Whether that was stunts or whether that was, those scheme pressures that Flores likes to do. Jonah Jackson just straight up had had a horrible game. He was just losing one-on-one and pass protection. That needs to clean itself up. But I think that was going to take time, Snyder, that this offensive line just, playing with each other for the first time, the interior guys, I should say, they'll eventually get a better feel for passing stuff off, recognizing stunts as a unit. That was probably going to always take time. I think across the league, you kind of see new offensive line struggles. We can talk about the Lions. They were really, really poor against the Packers in that regard too, because of how new their offensive line is. But yeah, I think that stuff will be less of a problem against the Lions, hopefully, than it was against the Vikings, because the Vikings just kind of have more ways to threaten you with their personnel, and then obviously who they have calling defensive plays. But Senator, why don't we move to the defensive side of the ball, because the Lions also had a piss poor performance on offense. I would say even worse than the Bears. I think that really what it came down to is they were just living and dying by trying to establish the run. And they had, I think, both David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs were in the bottom 5 in terms of yards before contact, because their offensive line was just getting whooped by the Packers defensive line. And I think that's encouraging for the Bears, right? In this matchup where, yeah, did the Bears have the defensive line the Packers have? No. But I do think that they can give the Lions issues in the run game. I think that they kind of fell off a little bit against the Vikings in terms of stopping the run. But I do think that this Vikings offensive line is new and they have young players in there, and that the Bears defense, we know Gervin Dexter can be stout against the run. We know Andrew Billings can be really, really good against the run. I think that is the priority. Obviously, the Lions can hurt you in the passing game. They have a bunch of weapons, but I think kind of like what we're saying with the Bears and how if you can stop the run for them, it causes their offense issues. I believe the same thing with the Lions. You can't let them run all over you. And so I don't want to simplify it to like stopping the run, you win the game. But I think that's, again, what the Lions are going to try to do. They're going to try to get their ground game right, and the Bears got to come prepared to stop it.
Well said, Tom. I mean, the Packers had a game plan and they executed it perfectly, right? What I've seen from the Lions offense was that it didn't look any creative, right? You actually seen, I think, Amon-Ra St. Brown primarily outside when he's been an inside type of guy, right? You didn't see any really deep shots with Jameson Williams. Didn't really see him getting involved in the screen game. You had some easy buttons with Sam Laporta here and there, but once you shut that run down, Goff becomes, the Jared Goff that he was without Ben Johnson, right? And you get rid of those kind of easy button plays. He kind of reverted back to his old ways. So I think, you stop that run and you get Jared Goff in situations where he tries to be Superman. I think that always gets him in trouble. I always allude back to that Super Bowl he lost with the Rams. And even in that playoff game, what did he throw? 3 or 4 interceptions, Tom, on the last one. So I really think that defensively, if we could collapse the pocket, stop the run, what we were doing for most of the game against the Vikings, I think we really have a fighting chance, Tom, to really disrupt things for them.
100%, Snyder. I think the creativity aspect was a big observation on your behalf, because I'm just reading some stats here on Twitter. Stale. I'm sorry?
It looks stale. It looks super stale.
It looked very
Gibbs, dump off to Gibbs, but like just nothing creative down the field, like nothing.
So the Lions last year used motion on 66% of their dropbacks, which was the 6th most in the NFL. This past week, 23% of their dropbacks used motion. That was the 3rd fewest on the week. Yep. Their play action percentage dropped to 14%, which was the 26th most in the league. So again, the two things that Ben Johnson did so well in Detroit, they fell off a cliff, right? And that's when we're talking about creativity. We know if you can use play action and motion in your advantage as an offensive play caller, you're probably really good at your job and your offense is probably doing very well. And those two things, in terms of just like a usage standpoint, really fell off a cliff last week. Now, could that have been because of the game script and things kind of went out of hand very early? Possibly. And they couldn't really get the run game going, so they didn't want to try play action. But if that's how they want to run the offense against the Bears, I really like the Bears in this matchup, because I think that just makes things a lot easier for Dennis Allen to have a good game plan for. And we know Jared Goff has always been at his best on those play action plays. Like, whether he's been with Sean McVay, whether he's been with Ben Johnson. If you're not doing that with him, I think you're going away from his strengths. And if they're not going to do that in this game like they didn't do against the Packers, then I think that would be, honestly, Senator, obviously you want to stop the run and win up front, no doubt. But I'm preparing to take away those intermediate shots. Like, that's who Jared Goff is. That's who he wants to be. I'm preparing to take those away. And if you can do that, like if you can run, I think what's always given Jared Goff trouble is when you can stay in cover two and really stop the run out of cover two at the line. If the Bears can do that in this game, then I really like their chances, especially with the play caller that's still kind of trying to find his footing with this Lions offense.
And I think you could do that more, right? If you get Jalen Johnson back, you get Kyler Gordon back, you could probably get away with that, right? I thought the pocket was collapsing with 4. I don't think blitzes called was really low, right, for a Dennis Allen defense. And the defense were kind of holding their own, right? Now you add Jalen Johnson, you add Kyler Gordon back there. That's going to make it even harder. So I think they can, right? If you can get those guys back, I think you can sit back and kind of win that in that way.
Most definitely, Snyder. I'll say that Jalen Johnson was a full participant yesterday, so that's a good sign. It sounds like he's going to play. Kyler Gordon is still not practicing. I don't know if he's going to play, which is concerning. You said Amon-Ra St. Brown played a little bit more outside. If maybe Kyler Gordon doesn't play, he moves more into the slot. That could be an issue. That's one to watch out for. I thought Nick McLeod played pretty well for Kyler Gordon, all things considered, in his stay. But again, if you're going up against Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's a little bit different than going up against like Adam Thielen or Jalen Naylor, whoever they had out there. That could be definitely an issue for this team. Yes, and I think what it comes down to, for me, the 2 players I want to have a game plan for is Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's Jared Goff's safety blanket. That's who he wants to pepper in the passing game. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, is their most explosive playmaker, really having a game plan for him and not allowing him to rip off chunk plays. He's kind of haunted the Bears whenever they play because of the big plays he's able to rip off. I mean, obviously, Jameson Williams, you got to have a plan for him too. You can't let him beat you deep, but I think Jameson Williams has kind of been like an overrated deep threat. And he, like you said, we talked about it too. He made a lot of his big plays last year on yards after the catch opportunities. So again, how I'm approaching this Lions offense, and I think the teams that have been able to stymie them and give them issues, is if they can stop the run with their front 4 and then really play some zone coverage in the middle of the field and take away those big crossers that Jared Goff likes to target. That would be kind of the game plan that I am coming at in this game. But we shall see if Dennis Allen wants to get a little bit more exotic, or if he feels better about playing a little bit more man coverage against this Lions team.
Yeah, I think maybe with a more proven, veteran quarterback, you do get more exotic, right, to kind of keep up off balance, right? I think you kind of got away with, sitting back, rushing 4 against J.J. McCarthy as he was, making his first NFL start, getting a good feel, and maybe let him make mistakes. So I think with Goff, you're going to have to be a little bit more creative, right? Generating pressure, maybe some nickel blitzes, whatever you have to do, right? I think you would have to be a little bit more creative, but it can go a long way, right? I think under pressure, Jared Goff sometimes shows who he truly is.
Yeah, that's the way. I mean, obviously, like, all quarterbacks are worse under pressure, but like Jared Goff is kind of a sitting duck because he just can't really move around. He can't make the plays that a Caleb can, that, like, the top upper echelon quarterbacks. He's a great quarterback, don't get me wrong. I think he's very underrated, honestly. But yeah, that's the way to do it. And I know he's struggled with the blitz in the past. He's kind of cleaned that up over the years. But again, I wonder if that's something Dennis Allen taps into. Dennis Allen, I thought, kind of disguised a lot of his pressures. Our guy Joseph said, make Jared Goff move off his first read, and I think just move off his spot. That's kind of how you want to approach Jared Goff. He's that statue pocket passer. And yeah, I think Dennis Allen will kind of form a game plan around that. But yeah, I think that this will be a good test for this Bears defense to kind of, I don't think bounce back, because I think they had a good game plan, and I think they did well for 3 quarters of that game. It's just things kind of fell off because the offense couldn't really pick it up and put it away. But yeah, I think this will be a good way to bounce back for this team as a whole, Snyder. If you had to point to an X factor on defense, who is that for you? I think for me, it's Gervin Dexter, because the interior is probably the most suspect part of the Lions offense. And I think that if he has a big game, the Bears got to feel really good about their chances of winning it.
Yeah, I like where your head's at, Tom. That's where you kind of see the weak speak for the Lions, right? You got Tate Ratledge, who's a rookie who didn't look too great, right? And then I think you got another starter there was missing, Tom. So, yeah, the interior, I think, is where you want to attack the Lions. Um, it's tough to say, man. Dale looks pretty good to me against a Vikings backup player, right? I want to see, is that who Dale could be? Can he be disruptive? Can he, collapse the pocket? And he looked disruptive, right? Here, it's sad to say, Tom, my expectations for Montez Sweat in this game being lined up against Penei Sewell, it doesn't look really good, right? I don't feel great about that. So I have no expectations there. But if your guy is Gervon Dexter, I think mine's going to be Dale again, right? If he could be disruptive, if he could create some havoc, and kind of pressure Goff on his own there, I think that'll take this defense a long way in this game. So I think Dale is going to be my X factor, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point to bring up. He had a very good game, especially for our expectations. Now, like you said, it was going up against the backup. Can he keep that up? I think he'll be seeing a lot of Taylor Decker in this one, and Taylor Decker's a decent tackle. But the Lions' tackles really struggled against the Packers. Now, the Packers have Micah Parsons. That makes sense why they struggled. But can that be a matchup that they continue to exploit? I've always kind of felt like the Lions' tackles from a pass protection standpoint have been a little overrated. I think that their strengths, especially Sewell's strengths as a run blocker. So can you take advantage of some of that, those miscues, and maybe just take advantage for Sweat like the Packers were doing? But yeah, center, I think Deo's a good X factor. I also think having Jalen Johnson in this back will just be so big. I mean, Nahshon Wright played admirably, but he's not Jalen Johnson, right? Jalen Johnson, second team All Pro. Like, Jalen Johnson is the Bears' best player on defense. Having him back will be huge. Steiner, in terms of, why don't we wind it down here and why don't we go prediction time? What do you think is going to happen in this game? What's your score prediction? Who wins and why?
So right now the Bears are 6.5 point dogs, right?
Wow.
And they are playing at Detroit. So it's on the road. It's hard to say that they will win. I am not I'm not going to say panicking, but I don't know if I'm buying the Lions being a significantly worse offense without Ben. I just think I'm giving my flowers to the Green Bay Packers. And I do think their defense was already good. I think you added Micah Parsons, and you seen the way he was kind of taking advantage of them. You mixed that in with everyone else. I just think the Packers are really that good, Tom. I think this is actually going to maybe be a statement game for the Lions, reminding everyone who they are. And I'm kind of aligned with Vegas, Tom. I think the Lions actually win this one well over a touchdown. My prediction will actually be, I would say, 27 to 17. And I'm going to lean towards the Lions there. Again, I just think the Lions they're more complete all the way around. There's more star power all the way around. Their quarterback, and I know sometimes he can kind of get himself in some trouble with some pressure. He is, at this point in stage, a better quarterback than ours. And you combine all that, Tom, I think, at home, the Lions, they take care of business.
I think this game's going to be a lot closer. Like, I would be not concerned, but I would be pretty disappointed if they couldn't cover that 6.5. Just like you said, Steiner, the Packers are really good. There's no doubt about, I do not think the Bears will have as much defensive success as the Packers did against the Lions. I think that's just I just think that's not in the realm of possibilities. They don't have the talent to do that. But I do think that the Lions offense is still going to try to find itself, because the stark differences on how they called the game, I think, is going to be such a big difference from what they had with Ben Johnson. And I don't think that's just going to change overnight. I think this is going to take time for their offense to figure itself out. And the Bears defense is tough. Like Dennis Allen knows what he's doing. And that's why I think the game's going to be closer. Now, it's really whether or not the Bears can find themselves on offense. Like you said, we said, I really struggle about their run game a ton. The Bears run game, that's my biggest concern heading into this game. But if Caleb plays better, I think the game has to be closer. Caleb just needs to continue to do a good job of not taking negative plays and putting the Bears behind the sticks. And then also the steps where he needs to grow is the accuracy and just making more plays on time. That can happen in this game, which I think it could, because I think the Lions defense is a lot simpler for the Ben Johnson and Caleb to figure out. I think this game will be a lot closer. And I will say that the Bears lose this game. I'll say they'll lose this game 20-14. We want to see this offense take steps, and maybe 14 points wouldn't be great in that. But I do think the Bears will be better in this one. I just think that this opponent defensively is easier, so I think Caleb will play better. But ultimately, I do agree with you that the Lions defense is pretty good. And I don't know, they're at home. I still have enough concerns about this Bears offense to where I think the Lions will close this out.
Yeah, I have to agree, Tom. It's going to talk, if we do start out 0-2, it's not going to be a good look. You want to wish you grabbed one against the division. I mean, Tom, I could be wrong, right? Caleb, the thing is, he has all the talent in the world where he could just absolutely take over a game. I think the Bears have so many receiving threats that could take over a game. It's just we haven't had a clean game where Caleb's hitting those guys, right? Where he's seeing those guys open. So, again, unless Caleb could answer everything that us Bears fans are concerned about, I just don't see it, right? But, again, if it clicks and if it, he can see all that, it's a totally different conversation, right? So again, I can see a path where the Bears kind of shock everyone, but I can't be optimistic without ever seeing it.
I agree there. I agree with you there. Like, I really would like to have some evidence to fall back on to lean towards if I was going to be aggressive and pick the Bears here, but we will not. We are both thinking the Lions get the W here, which would be disappointing. But really what we're looking forward in this game is the Bears just finding themselves on offense and just having a better execution with what Ben Johnson wants to do. Other than that, though, Snyder, I don't think there's really anything else to preview. Is there anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
No, I think we covered it all, Tom. Again, this is going to just be a huge matchup. Again, like I said at the beginning, another division bloodbath. I mean, if we could find a way to get this upset, Tom, I mean, we'd be ecstatic, right? Everyone would be all the way back in. All those articles would be laid to bed and everything. It'd just be a totally different vibe. And, again, it ultimately, if Caleb could clean a lot of things up, Tom, I think this team is talented enough around all the board. So it's going to keep us competitive. I think it's going to keep us in a lot of one-score games, last drive type of games. But Caleb needs to play a better overall game from start to finish.
Yep. It's a lot is riding on him, unfortunately. And I wish the Bears are maybe more equipped to take some off of him with the run game. But I think if the Bears win, it's really going to be on his arm, and we'll see if he can come to play and play a better game. I think it will be better. I think it has to be better as a passer. If it's not, then we'll be having a different discussion. But I think that's where we can leave this game. But we will be back, y'all. Hopefully, maybe we can get back on Monday. Maybe we can get back on Sunday night to kind of recap this game. But until we meet again, y'all, keep it real. Bear down.
Bear down.